is just recording locally.
Cool.
I am so pleased to be with you. And also just like we don't have to start the interview like straight off the bat.
Yeah.
How are you feeling today? You doing okay?
Yeah, good. Wednesdays are busy for work wise. It's our present to DreamWorks day, so that's done. So so this is like I was looking forward to this after the serious meeting. So I've been excited. How
I'm
are
so
you?
glad. I feel good. I've had a really lovely day. I was gonna have a 7:30 call and then they canceled, and I'm just like, so I already cracked open a Truly because I'm just like, it's
Nice.
5 o'clock somewhere, girls.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Amazing.
yeah, so I'm truly having a great day.
Oh,
Also,
awesome.
can you tell me how to pronounce your last name?
Yes, it's Ukrainian, Chomiak.
Chomiak. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Stacey Chomiak.
Yeah, that's right. Got it.
I'm so like I kept seeing your book pop up over around Instagram, and it said and a gay Christian coming of age story, but
Mm-hmm.
it's illustrated, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, here's something that's actually never been done before, never
Yeah.
seen it, and also I have been just so into the idea of children's books lately because of the way that, like, of course, like a good children's author is actually writing for the parent. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
totally.
And I just feel like I'm excited to get your book because I think it's going to hit all those things. But before we dive into that, would you please
Yes.
tell people, how do you introduce yourself at parties or at any sort of social function you might find yourself at? If you find
Oh,
yourself at social functions.
yeah. Well, this last year and a half has been a lot less social
Yeah.
functions,
How
but
did you used to, or how did,
uh,
so imagine a world where it feels very, very safe and good to be at a social
yeah.
function.
Oh my word. That I hope that comes again. Yeah, I look forward to that. Yeah. Well, this is I guess an ever evolving thing. I guess I would say, like, I'm an animation artist and new author, illustrator, and mom, of course, of
Mhm.
two kids and wife, and then friend. I guess would be the last one. But yeah, that's sort of the nutshell of list of titles.
Yeah. And when you say animation, do you mean like computer animation or just hand drawn? Like what kind of animation you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. We do it's hand drawn, but it's on the computer.
Yeah.
So we use these. I don't know if you can see that. There's a screen behind me that's called a Cintiq, which is like it's like a big iPad essentially. And
Nice.
so we draw stuff on the computer. So I've been working on like preschool shows for like Netflix and
Oh,
DreamWorks and stuff
cool.
for like 10 years. So yeah, lots of drawing for kids.
Yeah. So like look up this girl on IMDb, y'all.
Yeah.
And also like like the thing that got my like that like connects us is like gay Christian coming of age story. I'm just like in
Oh
an
man.
animated form. Like I want to know like if you know, you can spoil as much as you want, but like what's your deal, Stace? Like, how did you end up writing your story in an illustrated format?
Yeah, that is a great question. Well, initially, the whole idea from it came actually I was in therapy and they were,
Mm,
as a lot of us gay Christians, we have a long history of going to therapy.
a
And
long history.
we all need it, right?
History did when it has current status for me.
Current history and continued. Me too.
Yeah.
And I had been wanting to do like an animated short of coming out, and it never like
Mm,
materialized. So I was sitting in a therapy session, and that we were doing the exercise where you were talking to your younger self in those
right.
moments where it's like super painful. And just in that moment I was like, oh shoot, I should write a book, like a kid's book, and like talking to my younger self and sort of helping myself heal. I just thought that would be a really great like format because I've been wanting to sort of transition into books from animation, and obviously it just seems easier than doing a million drawings for animation. Just doing a few illustrations for a book has seemed more manageable and more accessible
Yeah,
too.
probably.
So yeah, so and something for my kids that they could actually see. So initially thought, oh, this will be a great picture book. I'll just like Cole's notes my 13-year, 14-year journey, and that'll be fine. So I just started writing the manuscript, and I did like a couple concept sketches, and then I thought, oh man, if I want this to go anywhere, I probably need an agent, which I didn't have. So I just
Hmm.
Googled like queer agents, like looking for queer kids book ideas, and sent out an email. And like the next day I got a couple emails like, oh, we're really interested, can you talk on the phone, which is really quick. I heard it takes a long
Oh
time
yeah, because
typically.
Lord knows like I know so many of my friends out here. I'm just like, I've never heard back from an agent ever. So it's
I
just like,
know, I
it
know.
really is like, it's one of those like like sometimes you strike lightning, like, and
I
it's
know.
nobody's fault except the universe. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and I always feel bad because it's such a ridiculously non-ideal story. Because like literally the next day, and I had two offers from agents, and so I chose one who was queer themselves and just really loved the story, and so they helped me develop it into like more of a manuscript, more of a lengthy one. I still had it like as a picture book idea, but they were like, I really see this more of a graphic novel, and I was like, that's
Mm.
scary because
Yeah,
that means
especially graphic novel has like a whole different
yeah,
concept to it. Because
it
I'm,
does. It does. And that to me said like, oh, you have to expand a lot more because it was, I think at the time it was like 1,200 words. I was like, oh man, that's yeah. And so they were like, don't worry, we'll get there if we get there. And anyway, I did kind of develop, and it went through some editors, and some the feedback was like, this is a great idea, but we should try and target it for teens, and there should be more.
mhm.
So we sort of kept developing it, and in the meantime, I did get a deal to illustrate a picture book called Rainbow Boy. I
Hmm.
have it here. It's right here. Rainbow Boy.
Aw,
Yeah, it's
that's so
like
cute.
it's so cute. It is super cute. It's a really cute story. I didn't write it, but it's a really cute story of like a boy who loves like putting on his tutu and playing with
Mhm,
dolls, but also plays with basketballs. And so
mhm,
this publisher really wanted an LGBTQ illustrator. So I started working on that. And at the same time, the editor, I guess, noticed my concept art on my website for, at the time, my story was called Dear Younger Gay Me.
mhm.
And so she said, oh, do you guys have a publisher for this book? And so my agent and I submitted it to them, and that's how we got the book deal for Still Stays.
Mm.
So
Liz, I love, yes, good.
crazy, right? You can't plan that kind of stuff. It just happens.
Sometimes magic happens. Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Is like uh the way that someone was putting it is just like preparation plus opportunity equals luck.
Yeah, I've heard that too. That's so accurate.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because also it's like yeah, of course it happened at that time. You were ready.
That's
And
true. It's
so
so
I'm like,
true.
so I love that. I think that's brilliant. And so
Yeah.
your story of Still Stays, you are talking to your younger self and basically, without giving it all away,
Mhm.
what did your younger self, what did she need to know?
I think the whole sort of seed of it was that I wrestled sort of with my faith and sexuality for about
Mhm.
13 years. And
Do you
there was
still identify as
no
a Christian right now?
Yeah, I do. I know it's contentious, and
No, no,
that's
no. I live for anyone who identifies as
yeah,
anything.
I know. It's getting harder and harder, let me tell you. But
Ooh, mm-hmm.
Mhm. You hear me. It's tricky, but I'm still sort of I like it because it opens up conversations, because either the Christian community is like, what, gay? Or the gay community is like, what, Christian? And I totally get both.
Mm-hmm.
But I just like it as a conversation starter. So yes, I still do. And it can be tricky for sure. But I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember what my initial train of thought was on that.
Sorry, I
Um,
interrupted you. I think we were
no, it's all
talking
good.
about what did
Oh,
your
the younger
younger
self.
self, yeah,
Yeah,
what were you
that's
going to
right.
tell her?
Well, I mean, the whole time I struggled, I would, was pre-internet when I started. And then when the internet came, I would Google like gay Christian, and they just didn't exist. I mean, the first gay Christian I ever heard of was Justin Lee
Mm-hmm.
from the Gay Christian Network. And that was like 2010, right when I finally was coming out. And so for the whole time, I was like, there's no gay Christians that I can like talk to. Is all ex-gay people or
Yeah.
straight Christians, right? And like, those are two totally different worlds.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Because I was in the ex-gay world for a long,
Yes.
long time.
How long were you in that for?
So my dad outed me to my mom when I was like 13. So that was probably 2004, 2005.
Oh
And so
man.
I was in ex-gay something or others for about 12 years. So
Oh man. Yeah, I well, that's a long time.
the heydays.
Oh yeah, I was in it around, I think it was 2003. I went to like one of their annual conferences in California, and yeah, that was trippy, man. Like,
It was like,
ooh.
it was talk about like just like a flood of weird emotions.
Yeah.
Just of like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm being seen for the first time, but
Yes.
also we could, it's like we can see but don't ever touch.
Exactly. Oh man, I just felt like I kind of hate this word, but it felt so appropriate when I was there. Like
Hmm.
I felt spiritual warfare being there because previously I'd only been to
Hmm.
like really evangelical Christian conferences, and this was like the first time that it felt like that, but everybody was just talking about being gay and struggling.
Let me tell you what, I don't think you're far off. Like, if I'm gonna be like the woo
Yeah.
woo girl that I am, I'm just like, there was a spiritual warfare. The Holy Ghost was trying to protect all y'all, saying this is bad, don't believe this. Your body is like getting scared because it's like we're not safe here, we're not safe here. And I'm like,
Yeah.
there was some spiritual warfare. It just looked like what you thought you got. You're like, you had the Stockholm syndrome. We all had Stockholm
Yes,
syndrome.
totally. Totally. It was so, and I was just like this naive, like vanilla Canadian girl coming in being like, hey, not expecting like I had kissed a guy and a girl that for those throughout those like couple days. And it was just
Hmm.
mentally just crazy. So yeah, I mean it was important I think to go through, but yeah, that was messy though, all the
Yeah.
Exodus stuff and ex gay stuff.
Yeah, because like, and then like once you like, I think I was lucky because I found myself I found myself at the Reformation Project for
Yeah,
my first conference ever, and I
yeah.
found it because I matched with a guy on Tinder who invited me.
No
Dead
way! That's
ass.
amazing.
And then that
Amazing.
man turned out to be a guy named Brett Trapp who would go on to write this really great blog called Blue Babies Pink, and
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
and then I got to go to his wedding a couple years later, and I was just like, this is good shit.
Amazing.
Um,
Totally. Oh
but yeah, so
man.
it's just like, sometimes like it's so wild, like how like once like at least for me, I noticed as I started like my coming out journey, like the more I started even entertaining the idea that God was okay with this,
Hmm.
like that was like a shifting point for me. That's like maybe God isn't as angry or as mean as I've
Yeah.
been told.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what I kept going around and around was like, what I've been told and what I feel are
Hmm.
like two different things. But I was just such a perfectionist, like, evangelical good girl. I just couldn't,
Right.
give into this like, the largest of sins, if you will.
Oh yeah.
Sort of my upbringing.
Hmm.
That's what all my church teaching was like, this is the worst thing. So, you
Yeah.
definitely can't give into it. You have to just keep fighting against it. So
Yeah. And your family, were they also evangelical too?
yeah. Yes, I grew up in sort of a longish line of like, middle class evangelical family, going to like a larger church in Winnipeg, Canada, and where my mom had grown up in, and
Hmm.
yeah, so it was. I mean, and I loved it. It wasn't like I hated going or anything. I
Hmm.
was like totally immersed and like didn't really know any differently. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. My friends are here.
Hmm.
Everything's here. But then when I started struggling, like in my teens, I was like, oh, now I don't fit anymore. What's happening? Like,
Oh God, I know that. And I remember
yeah.
like when I went to my first Exodus conference and they explained how like the psychology of why you are gay. I was
Oh,
like, oh my God, everything makes sense now.
yeah. Yeah, totally.
And I'm just like, I didn't like, of course, like I'm like 14, 15 years old. So like, I don't know shit about actual psychology.
Exactly. I know. We're just looking for answers, right? It just,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
So eventually, like, not to, spoiler alert, but you said like, you're married, have children's, and
Yeah.
um, what's your love story? How'd you meet Bay and how'd you end up so gay?
Yeah, yeah, that's a double question. Well, that a lot of that is in the book, and it's tumultuous, if you will. But
Mm.
we met at youth group actually.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I
know.
love the youth group to gay spouse pipeline.
Yes, totally, exactly, and it's not told enough. And that's also why I kind of love my story for teens because there are a lot of stories that don't have happy
Hmm.
endings when there's
Yeah.
like faith involved. So I think it's good when there are actually stories that have happy endings. So
Yeah.
but yeah, we met and we were just friends and Tam's my wife now, she didn't know she was gay
Hmm.
and I was really closeted and had just got out of like a really closeted relationship with someone else at the youth group. And so we were just friends for like
Oh,
a year.
those early closeted things are so
Oh,
hard. It's
I
like
know.
This, I mean, you want to talk about spiritual warfare, baby. Good God.
Yes. Yeah, and like the angst and like that I did talk more about my sort of first relationship in the book, which I think is really important because there are so many like those early relationships where they're hard enough like when you're angsty and teen and like trying to figure out your body and your life, but then you're
Oh,
also
shit.
closeted and like
You feel
it's
bad about feeling anything.
yeah, it's a sort of this cluster of messes and so I was like, yeah, I'm sure I'll talk about that more because everyone enjoys that because they can understand those feelings. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so Tams and I were just friends for a year, and like at the end of the year ish, I kind of told her like, you know what, like you feel like a safe Christian, so I'll tell you, like I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with same sex attraction as
SSA, baby.
yeah,
We wouldn't
yeah.
even say it out loud. We just
No,
shortened it.
totally. It's too shameful.
It's
We
like
gotta
he has SSA.
totally. It's like a disease for sure.
Ugh.
So yeah. So I told her and she was like, "Oh, I'll totally support you. Like that must be really hard." And then I was like, "I think I need to go to this Exodus conference. It's going to help me, with my struggle." And so I went, again, this is a spoiler, but whatever. I
Mm.
went to the Exodus conference, and while I was away, Tams like realized that she fell in love with me.
Dang.
And she's like, what am I going to do? I'm like her only Christian support in trying to be straight. And now I have to tell her that I have feelings for her and I'm going to make her stumble. So
Listen, the drama. The
yes, exactly.
drama.
Yeah, and we all love the drama. So I came back to Exodus and I told her like what happened, drama. I kissed this person, kissed that person, and then she was like, "Yeah, I have to tell you something." So she was honest with me, and then from there we kind of started a very tumultuous, like 7-year kind of half closeted, mostly closeted relationship.
Wow, you better do that whole Jacob and Laban bit,
Totally.
Sorry, that's the kind of like evangelical I grew up. It's just
I
like I see it. I
know.
was just like 7 years. Oh yeah, you worked for it. You did.
Totally. It's true. It's
Labor.
Oh boy, it's so true. It's so true. Yes. Crazy.
But worth it. Worth it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I had to be sure. I had to be sure that I like felt peace about who I was before really committing, because I just knew otherwise it would just go on and on and on. And it would just be a mess.
Oh man, if I could put that on like any sort of like coming out advice for anyone is like just really like try to get okay with you first before you bring anybody else into the mix, because oh man, alive. It's just like it feels delicious and wonderful, and I think you should absolutely enjoy that and just let yourself hold it loosely because you're growing and you're
absolutely. Ugh. Oh, that is, yes, preach. That is so, and it's tough, right? Because you're also learning and growing, and it was just really confusing and figuring out how I felt about it and how we felt about it, and yeah, it's an always evolving thing, but definitely it felt amazing to sort of say like, okay, this is definitely me. Now we can move forward to that next step. Luckily, she was still around, so
yeah. I love that. And then I'm also just curious about just like the work that you've done before, because you said that you've done like been in animation working on kids shows and whatnot forever. How did you find yourself in that world? Because my brother used to work in Hollywood for different studios on like Transformers and all those big shows or all those big movies and shit.
Oh, cool.
So I'm always just curious. I'm just like, animators are like, y'all find yourself. How did you get there? Because it's always interesting. Because usually it's like, I was working at Chick-fil-A for about 5 years until somebody had a contract for me.
Right, exactly. It doesn't happen that way. No, that's kind of a thread in the book too, which is why it's cool that the art part of it could sort of be explained. But I mean, I just always loved drawing, and I always loved animation. Like I think from kindergarten, and I just always knew I had to work in that industry somehow if I could. So I did go to school for 4 years to get an animation degree, and then just decided to move to near Vancouver, BC, where we're living now. And after we got engaged, moved here, and then had my degree, and then started applying at places. And that was 2011 was I started working in this industry. So yeah, it's been just, I can't complain. I just draw for kids all day and get paid for it. So
that's so dope.
Yeah, it's cool.
So as you were like developing, I'm curious, like for you, what came first? I think you already said it, like the main, like did the words come first or did the illustration, like the images come first for you?
For
Or
my
did it just,
book?
yeah, or did it all just come at
Mm.
once?
Yeah, that's a good question because in every project I'd done previously, which was like animation or I mean, sort of illustration based, I think when I was sitting in that initial like session with my therapist, like I think the visual came first and I saw myself like sitting on my bed, like surrounded by all the different Bible translations that I had, like just looking up the word homosexuality in all the different Bibles. And I just thought like, oh, that's a good illustration. And yeah, that was the first thing that came to me for
As soon
sure.
as you said that, I'm just like, I did that.
Yes,
Because like, I
exactly.
was like, I gotta see, what do they all say? Like,
Exactly. We all did that. And every, like, maybe the message is different because it's more current. Maybe it'll be like, it'll say that it's okay.
yeah, it's like, and that's like what they really don't teach you is like,
Yeah.
none of these English translations even come close sometimes. And like,
Yeah.
and also like, I don't think, at least for me, like I never was taught beyond, like, I was like, to like, something that like I learned in college was like, you need primary sources, right? And I never like
Hmm.
questioned like, what are the sources that I have in this Bible? Where did this come from? How did we get this? And we were never taught how we actually got the Bible. We just had it.
That's true.
We never taught how like the church came to be what it is. We just knew it was always this way.
That's totally true. I know. And when you're like 16, 17 and you're not, I'm not studying the Bible. I went to public school but
Mhm.
at church they're saying like, all of life's answers are in here. Anything you need to know, like they're in here. And so I'm like, well, this obviously has got to be in here too. I'll just keep looking at all the different translations. But
Mhm.
yeah. So that came first. I think there's a couple illustrations that I did, and then kind of I
Mhm.
wrote sort of that story from there.
Mm. I'm curious for you as you were working like in your own personal, like what was the when you were working in your life through the question of like, is this okay for me to be gay and Christian?
Hmm.
What what was the thing that finally convinced you that was like, this is right, this is okay. Like I know that
Yeah.
I'm loved and this is not only good but holy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that everybody wants to know for sure because it's the toughest thing, and I think it can be and usually is something different for everybody.
Mm,
And for me, I was so focused on trying to figure out like the translation of those clobber verses that everyone says like, well, yeah, I want to support you, I want to believe you, I want to encourage you, but it says it here, it's black and white, and so I would keep coming back to that. But at the end of my sort of 13 years, I sort of realized like I feel like I have a relationship with Jesus or God, whoever it
mm,
is. And I've been asking everybody else, like Christians, what they think of it. But I've never actually
mm.
asked, like, Jesus, what do you think of this? And
Hello.
yes, and sort of like in my mind, or actually I did on paper, like list the aspects of my relationship with Thames that were good and like reflective of like a sort of Christ-like relationship, and thinking like, what is it about this that he wouldn't want for me or that I wouldn't want for me? If it was a
Mm,
guy with all these things, I would of course be jumping up and down. And I basically sort of said like, ask God into this relationship, like instead of asking everybody else. I was like, maybe I have to
hey,
ask God into this. And it's crazy, and it's, I mean, it's, there's no other way to
is it
describe it.
is it crazy or is it absolutely the thing that happened?
Yes, it exactly was. And what happened too is like in those 13 years, I seriously felt like anxiety and chaos in my body. And after
Mhm.
asking that question, I literally felt like physically felt peace like come into my body.
Come on.
Yeah.
The peace that passeth understanding.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And so for me, it wasn't like I got theological answers, but the peace that I was given that day and that still remains in that place is what I hold
Mm,
on to.
mm.
Yeah.
That gave me the goosebumps.
Yeah.
Cause that's it. Something Candace Zubernat. She is a queer lesbian therapist out in
Yes.
California. She runs the
Yes, I
Christian
love
Closet.
her. Yeah.
Oh, what a babe, what a doll. She said, like in an interview we did one time, she was like, what was the thing that brought me to Jesus in the first place? Was it not just this feeling of being held, this
Yeah.
feeling of like this same feeling that I experience when I allow myself to believe that God loves me
Exactly.
unconditionally.
Yeah.
Like that's what I felt. And it was the same like when you were saying that like a peace came over me and I physically felt and I'm just like, here's the deal is like that where the spirit of the Lord is, there is what? There's liberation,
Exactly.
there is freedom, there is release,
Freedom.
there is a lightness
Absolutely.
to it, there's the lifting of
Mm.
burdens, and there
Mm-hmm.
is the fullness of joy. And
Mm.
every time I tried to fight against that, this piece, all I felt was terrible. But then
Mm-hmm.
I just suddenly let go of like this thing, and all of a sudden I had room for all this other shit, all this other
Totally.
goodness. Oh,
Totally. Exactly. That is exactly it. And it was almost like I felt like God turning toward me, and like, I felt like he was sort of
mm-hmm,
pursuing me that whole time. And then I finally turned around and was like, oh yeah, you've been here the whole time and you've been okay with it. I just haven't been, because everyone
mm-hmm.
else told me I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, still
It's
from
like,
there, like, yeah, go ahead.
I was like, I had like the vision I had was just like, God is just like, oh yeah, you fine, yeah, you're fine, okay. What do you want?
Exactly.
And so we're over here all freaking out. It's like, what? He's like, it's fine. Like, what do you
Yes.
want to eat for dinner? And I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know, I don't know. But like that kind of release of just like, it feels like both like a delightful embarrassment. I'm just like, huh.
Totally.
And then just like, ugh, I
I
like it.
know.
Wow, I have
Yeah.
emotions in my eyes now.
And it is like, I mean, it is spirituality.
Yes.
When we're like, we learn these things that are like written down on paper, and we sing these songs and we get together. But what is the spirit of the Lord like saying to your body, saying to your
Mm-hmm.
soul? That those are things that can't be explained. And
Yes.
that is what I sit on. And there's still obviously people in my life, family, that don't agree, but at least I operate from that place of peace. And I'm like, it's okay if you don't agree. That's not going to change the way that I feel, because that's a
Mm-hmm.
gift to me.
Yeah. And it's also like, I don't need you to agree with me for me to be happy. And I don't
Yeah.
need you to believe the same things as I do to be happy. But it's very apparent that you need me to believe the same way you do to be
Yes.
happy. And that's very
Preach.
upsetting for you,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, that is a tough thing. It's a tough thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like, if you were like, I don't know, I work sometimes with this lovely youth group called Beloved Arise. So if you're listening to this and you're a queer youth
Yes,
out
I think I
there,
follow them. I love that.
it's a queer youth group that meets online. They have multiple meetings a week. So whatever your
Oh,
time zone, even overseas, they actually have like an international group. So
amazing.
it's like people in like Italy and Africa
Oh
and
my,
Southeast
amazing.
Asia. And I'm like,
Amazing.
I cannot wait for this thing to just continue to blossom into a global ministry and be the queer young life, you know?
Yes, yes. Oh man, I love that. I love
Um
that.
uh but I just like every time I talk to them, I'm just like, I'm always sharing just like a little portion of like where I was at their age. And I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
and I'm like, I don't know, for so many of those people, they're just like, it's like, this is the only space I have to be
Yeah.
myself. And like that for me, just like, I don't know. It's like that's why I'm excited about this book. I'm excited about, again, like there's never enough resources. There's
Yeah.
never enough like healthy stories of queer spiritual folks.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I know. I remember the first time I went to like a GCN conference, or Gay Christian Network, which is now QCF.
right.
But the first time I went, it was mind blowing, because
Mm-hmm.
again, my only experience was like, yeah, like straight Christian evangelical conferences, and then ex-gay conference, and then GCN, which I just remember we were rushing from the airport. It was in Orlando, I think 2010. And we
Yeah.
like opened the door to like the main room, and they were already into worship. And I was like almost knocked over with like the feeling of like God's presence in that space. And it was just,
Listen.
yes, it was like, oh, it was so unbelievable. And the first thought I had was, I just wish like my family or people that don't believe that like gay Christians can exist would just come in this space. And you can't
Mm-hmm.
deny that feeling of like God's presence being there.
That's exactly it. And that to me, like, I mean, like that's the thing about it is that like so many people's experiences of God are all about like this head knowledge, and then like I did the
Yeah,
right thing. I did the right thing, and I still ended up in this shitty place, and I'm mad at God, and I'm just like,
I totally.
yes, it's like I understand, and I get that you're angry with God, and I also want to tell you that it perhaps there is another experience that you could have, because I don't know
Mm.
who we were following before, but like, I'm just saying that like maybe there's a
Yeah.
different way to try and experience God. I'm not going to say that it
Yeah.
wasn't God. You were doing your
Right.
best, but
Hmm.
I'm the same way. When I walked into the GCN conference for my first time, I think was fall 2015 was my
Oh,
first
nice.
conference.
Yeah.
I walked in that space and I was still like coming out of Pentecostal world, and I could be as Pentecostal as I needed to
Yeah.
be.
Right.
And
Right.
and then just like being able to like, it was like I'm in my body and I'm unashamed. And that to me was
Mm,
just like
mm.
the coolest thing ever, was just like,
Yes.
I can just be silly and goofy and learn. And like, I went to everything I could. I was like
Oh, me
soaking it
too.
up,
Me too.
soaking it up.
I was just like floating the whole time, just like
Hmm.
meeting people and just connecting and just feeling, yeah, just feeling like a new level of freedom that I didn't know existed by being, it's like feeding off of everyone's vibrations of just feeling like
Hmm.
you knew you were beloved in that space, you
Yeah.
know?
And like, one thing I love, A Course in Miracles says like an idea becomes stronger when it's shared. And
Mm,
that's why I think gathering in spaces like conferences, and why I think also for me, I don't call myself a Christian, but I still lead worship at a queer, trans, black led Baptist church. So like, riddle me that.
amazing.
So
Amazing. I love it.
speaking of, I need to go like make the worship document for Sunday, because I usually
Amazing.
forget to do that. Don't text me, Darcy. I will do it. Okay. Um, but there's something about coming together and collectively
Mm,
affirming like our humanity, that hey, some of us are struggling in this place, some of us feel
mm,
really good right now and are thankful, some of us don't have no money to pay our bills, some of us have more than enough,
yeah.
and we're going to take care of each other because that's what we do as a community, and we're going to hold space for it all. And also, at least for our community, I feel like the touchstone is like, we, even if we don't hold the Bible as like this prime, biblical, was it basic instructions before leaving
Oh,
earth,
yeah. Yes.
even if we
Uh,
don't do it that way, like we still are, we hold it as a touchstone, and like, like
mm,
look at it in radical new ways.
yeah.
And I feel like we come together, we share these ideas. And so like, when I get to preach, like my number one whole point of any sermon is like, you have access to God's presence.
Mm,
And then we practice that together. Like, we practice meditation together, we practice
mhm.
silence together. And I'm like,
Yeah.
a lot of time, like, at least in my experience so far, is that there's a lot of people, queer and straight, just anyone who's like in the deconstructed world, or like questioning faith, where they think that spirituality is still limited to what we left behind.
Mhm.
And really, I'm just like, it's bigger and more delicious. And just like, they're like you and I feel like we were talking about, like, we had this experience of
Yeah.
peace, of this,
Yes.
and I would say that peace is God.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry for that long ramble, but that
No, no,
all I have to say
not
is
at
like, we have an
all.
experience, and like, that experience, when shared, when one says, you are not only able to have this, but you're entitled to this, and not just
Right.
few and far between at conferences or at worship sets, but every breath and every moment.
Love it. Yeah, entitled, and that was like a new thing for me too. Like, not, not that, yeah, God accepts this, but God celebrates this. And that
Hmm.
this is like a beautifully original and new part of yourself that you can actually, yeah, you can celebrate it. And how does it help you view
Hmm.
the world, view art, and view people, and view your faith? And how does it enrich it, instead of sort of
Yes.
hiding it and trying to cover it up and camouflage it so that people are comfortable with it, right?
Oh my God. You will never like, I think coming out for me taught me that, like, wow, like, I know that I was a lot before, but I did not know how small I was playing it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I love your posts, like just all the stuff that you like, all the different ways you express yourself. And like, I mean, I think it's beautiful. And I think everybody needs to, how do they express themselves and embrace that and say, this is like part of me. This is all parts of me that I
Hmm.
can feel like I can be free to express. And it is all beautiful. And,
Hmm.
instead of just like, holding ourselves tight and trying to not take up space in the world. And,
Right.
like we're taught, I think, in the Christian community sometimes.
Hmm. I wanted to share just a quick little image with the people. I hope I gotta click turn it on. Come
Oh
on in.
yeah.
There she is. This is
Oh
still
yeah.
Stace. This is the book coming to you very, very soon. My gay Christian coming of age story. I want to
Yeah.
know, for people who are going to pick this up, what do you hope is like, what's the takeaway that like if there's like one thing people walk away with this, what do you think it needs to be?
Oh man, one thing. Well, I hope they like the art because I'm a perfectionist about that, and it took me a long time. But I hope
I mean,
that.
I mean, just look at the material, mama.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. It was. It's a struggle as a perfectionist artist. It's it's tough to like your own work, but I am really happy with how it turned out. I for the story, I think I hope that people will find themselves, even if they're not gay at all, even if they're not Christian
Mm-hmm.
at all. I just hope that they'll find their own bravery, their own courage, their own authenticity, and
Mm-hmm.
see how they can step into more of themselves.
Mm,
And that's what I really, really hope for people when they come to the end. Like, how else
yeah.
can I be more of me so that I can be more of me for the world?
Yes. Come on now. I'm gonna tell you what, I fucking like you a lot, Stacey.
Ah, I love you, buddy.
I think you're really cool. I think you're like delicious and fun to talk to.
Oh,
And like
thanks.
I've already got I'm just like, wow, like let me throw some ideas at you because
Seriously,
I
do
just
it.
like I'm ready for a
Seriously.
collaboration station.
I was gonna say, let's do something. We need
Let's
yes.
y'all didn't come to for our pitch meeting, so we'll end it now.
Right.
Um but I just the thing I just like dig about hanging out with you and just what I've noticed so far is I just I like the thing that I want for every single one of our like queer peers out here and queer
Mm,
fam is like I tell people all the time just like the only thing I care about is keeping queer people alive. Like
absolutely. Absolutely.
I don't know what it is why I'm getting so sentimental, but it's just
No,
like
that's it. That's it.
it's like
That is it.
I think about all these beautiful people out here from all ages who are either like
Mm,
young teens or young persons all the way up to like I had a friend of mine who said, "Yeah, I just had a talk with a man who's 59 years old,
mm.
just came out, is just now, having to, end his marriage, and it was a Pentecostal pastor."
Oh my word.
And so I'm just like, and he was like talking about it's just like, yeah, like I know it sounds dramatic, but I had to come out, otherwise I wasn't going to be able to continue living. I'm just like, actually, that's
Yes.
the least dramatic thing.
No, that is just truth, and that is the thing, and that's why, when people say like, why do you have to tell your story? Why do you have to tell these details? And that is exactly it. Is
Yes.
because it people don't want to live because the struggle is so massive. And
Yeah.
it is important that we show that we exist and that you can be happy and you can be who you are and who God made you to be and you can
Yes.
live this life that you're given. You don't have
Yes.
to give up, and it is the most important thing. That's why
Yeah.
I do hope that whoever needs it most gets it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that like that feeling right there to be it's like your life is I had a friend of mine who like started a thing her it's like thing was like you're so worth like your life is so worth living.
Yeah.
Like and like every like I will tell you like and like you and me both can like attest to it. Like you like unfortunately so many of us have to give up things in order
I know.
to be who we are. And I
Yeah.
tell you what, I have gained so much more on the
Mm,
other side than I ever lost. And
absolutely.
that's also I think just like it's like yeah, there are hard things. There are things that like you maybe have to let go of for a short time, but that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that I mean, as a good Christian, I believe in resurrection. So dead things come back to
Yes,
life all the
yes,
time. Come
that's
on.
right. And that's the thing too that like I do touch on in the book is like you said, I don't think a lot of like straight people, Christians, whoever, recognize that there's so much grief in our
Oh,
journeys. Is that,
yes.
for me to come out, I embraced this massive piece and I felt so authentic in myself. But to do that, I had to then say, this is who I am in the world. And that means that the collateral damage is that if I want to get married, it means that my family won't be there. And so
Hmm.
while I can celebrate the actual getting married, I still had to massively grieve the fact that my family wasn't there. And those are things that I think we as gay Christians a lot of times have to balance. Like, how do we embrace that joy and then reconcile that grief that comes alongside it? And that's in a lot of our journeys. Like having kids, it was a sort of similar thing. Like people weren't happy about it. And
that is so crazy to me. Why are you mad at someone for having a baby?
I know. It's because when people think you're operating out of a place of sin, you don't want to infect those innocent children with that idea of like that's where they're operating from.
Innocent children. I'm like, well, you don't actually believe those children are innocent because you believe in original sin.
Exactly.
So like you don't even believe that. Like
yeah.
That's another thing too. That's another thing too. It's just like that's all. We'll start a different podcast all about called "Make It Make Sense" for me.
Yeah, call me back. We have a list of things going.
Yeah, just like our grievances with our family's faith.
Totally.
Jesus Christ.
Totally. But that's the thing is like I love connecting on those spaces of we have this unspoken like connection where we know we have lost stuff. We have gone through stuff. And that sort of knowledge and shared history and shared connection is like so beautiful in this community.
That is something I love. It's just like I always tell people I'm just like I have to end up with I won't say I will end up with like some kind of like ex-evangelical weirdo because just like we're out here, but like if most of my humor is like very niche and based in like weird obscure Bible passages that like I mean I went on a date with a guy one time who had none of the baggage, none of the drama. And I would just make some random thing. I'm just like, ugh, yeah, that's a burning bush right there. And he's like, what? I'm like, I mean, yeah, it's really obvious. Yeah.
It's not as fun. I mean, it's just great to throw those in, right?
Yeah, I think so. Anyways, I don't want to keep you past time, and I just feel like this is a delicious place to like punctuate it.
Yes.
So, the book is called Still Stace. My gay coming. I fucked up the thing. My gay Christian coming of age story. I'm like, my Christian gay coming of age story, or the other way around. Yeah, because there's no such thing as a gay Christian. So right.
Exactly.
Please tell humans on the internet where they can connect with you, find your work, and get your book, etc.
Yes, the book is available sort of anywhere online. Although I please encourage you to go to your independent bookstores. They all need the business. And then online, like my blog and everything, staceychomiak.com, and I'm on Instagram, Chomiak S, and my art is Stacey Chomiak Art. So I'd love to connect with anybody, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks you for being here. And the book comes out the October 22nd, correct?
19th.
October 19th. That's why we're going to put it out before that. In fact, I'm going to put it on my calendar. We're going to move it up in my calendar right now.
Woo, thanks.
Because we're not going to mess this up. I've had so much fun with you today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin.
I can't remember if I hit the end button if it will automatically hang up on you. So that's why I'm still talking to you while it's recording. But I'll cut all this back end off. I fucking love talking to you. You're so cool.
Seriously, I'd love to do it again. And I wanted to say too, your queerly beloved t-shirts. I have like 3 of them. I was gonna wear one today, but I was like, that feels too wrong. But I love them. I love them. So keep on doing it. It's amazing.
I love designing stuff. I'm working on my fall line right now.
Yes, let me know.
Let me just show you. I'm actually really happy with this design. So let me.
I'd love to see. I need more shirts for preaching and stuff. So.
This one I'm curious as to. It's gonna be going on like on a white what's it called? A white tank top or or white long sleeve. And it just God works all things for the good of those who are dope as shit.
Oh, amazing! That is a nice.
And I'm just like, you know what? Like for being like a little clip art moment, it's not too bad.
No, it's amazing. I love it. The designs have been just so nice. So
thanks, friend.
Yeah, but seriously, like a collab sometime for like a book collab?
So dead ass. I wrote like a short story in my book Bad Theology Kills, and I just kind of included these things as interludes. And it's called The White Denim Jacket, and it's written as a children's story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would love to see. And I had one of my friends say, yeah, I read it to my kid as a story. I'm like,
What?
All right.
We gotta get like art to that and get it like pitched.
Yeah, I think it could be really sick. So I will I got your email, so I'll send you the copy and you can take a look at it. And
yeah.
And if we wanna do something, that'd be fucking cool.
Yeah. I mean that's what my next thing is. I have some like queer kids book ideas, but I would love to collab with some peeps like yourself. So that would be amazing.
Let's fucking do it. All right. I'll see you soon, Stacey. Thank you for your time. I really like you.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, you too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.